Hey, the Runbow's here and Kathy's here. It's going to. It is so painful to talk right now. Oh, God. I woke up this morning and that goddamn tooth infection went full Walker, Texas Ranger on my ass. Oh, my God. I mean, it goes. This whole area is just one big, large, warm lump that goes across to about here, and it's so frickin' tender. Oh, God. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. You know, like I said last night, it was starting to ache. And I was like, no, this isn't from chewing the fucking potato chips. This is a goddamn infection. So I called my primary care and I said, I need to do a walk in. She says, well, he's not taking walk ins until after 5:30. I said, that ain't going to work. So I called ER and I said, how busy are you? And the girl said, well, we just had some people come in from a minor accident, but she goes, in 5 minutes it could be slow, 5 minutes it could be busy. What do you need? I says to her, I says, I got a goddamn tooth infection. She says, well, instead of coming in and sitting, let me make a suggestion. But before we get to the suggestion, let's get to the show. Broadcasting live from beautiful downtown Cleveland, it's station WDWL TV, and with me, the sore mouth grumpy old man, with guest appearance by the grumpy jackalope, and we are brought to you courtesy of Grumpy Vulture Productions. No bow. Thank you.
But out of that, a new holiday was born. A Festivus for the rest of us.
And we are now going to have the nightly ceremonial lighting of the Festivus pole. Voila! So the nurse in ER says, why don't you do a video visit? I said, a video visit? She says, yeah, go into my chart and there's a button you can click and you can do a video visit. click, and it gives you a list. Of course, nothing that says dental. But it does say other. So I click on other and I describe what I need. Next thing I know, it requests microphone and camera. Okay. I'm like, whoa. I look like I'm in an examining room. So on comes a nurse and she said, you're third in line to see either a doctor or a CNP in the dental unit. Okay, please wait. About 10 minutes later, on comes this very pleasant black girl. She's a nurse practitioner. And she said, I see you're having a dental issue. I said, yeah. If you can't tell, I can hardly open my goddamn mouth because it's swollen. And I told her what happened. I said, my dumb ass was eating kettle cooked chips. She goes, oh, those are crunchy. No shit, Sherlock. So she said, can you get close to the camera so I can see your jaw? So I get, right up. She says, all right, let me see the right side. Let me see the left side. Left, asshole. She goes, oh, yes, you are quite swollen. You are going to need some really high-power antibiotics because at your age and with your medical history, we don't want any problems out of that infection. I said, well, neither do I. She says, hold on. She comes back and she says, all right, I'm prescribing this antibiotic, dual combination something or another, and a gargle. I said, a gargle. Yes, this is a medicated gargle twice a day. It will aid in the healing. Okay. She said, what pharmacy? I said, Parma. She said, I will send this prescription over to the pharmacy with an emergency expedite. Whoa. About 10 minutes later, I get a call from the pharmacy. We have this emergency expedite. Are you going to be at your residence? I said, yeah, I'm not going out. She said, they'll be picking it up at noon. You should have it no later than 3. Okay. Around 2:35, the doorbell rings. I got drugs. Thank you. Yeah, Kathy. Modern technology. Unbelievable. I get up close to the camera and she can see my fucking face is all swollen. And I had to peel down my lips so she could see all my broken teeth. And she goes, if I were you, I would get those pulled. And I said, you know, I tried. I said, I wanted them all done at once. They wanted to do 2, 3, maybe 4. And I said, then I started chemo and I had to quit. I said, unfortunately, I just let it go because I only do this stupid shit like once a year. And she said, yeah, Christmas Eve. I said, well, I did it Sunday. I said, I should have stopped at one chip. Thank God I didn't have a wart in my lower region. Can you drop your pants and get close to the camera? Amazing. I was blown away. I got, like I say, I got close to the camera. I turned my head one way, turned my head the other way. I told her exactly what areas were really swollen. Like over here, there's a big, large bubble here. So I know it's, goddamn camera. It's one of the, I call them stumps. I aggravated one of the damn stumps. I couldn't believe it when the ER nurse went, well, do a video visit. Now, I've done telephone visits. I've never done a video. Basically like Zoom. And by 2:35, I had my medication. I took one of the horse capsules, and I did a gargle. So I have to do that twice a day, and I take my antibiotics twice a day. She said, you, with this antibiotic at the strength, she said, you should start feeling relief the morning of the third day. I said, good, because I'd hate to go a goddamn week with this. Yeah, I was getting set to drive to the ER. Now, I could have checked in, and then they could have got busy. And of course, I'm not a priority. So, every 20 minutes, doctor will be in shortly. Doctor will be in shortly. Doctor will be in shortly. I could have been sitting there 3, 4, 5 hours. It was amazing. I got nice and close to the camera. She said, can you kind of pull the beard, And then, she was like, show me the biggest problem. And I said, well, I got this big, not that side, you dickhead. I hate when this goddamn camera. She said, can you kind of pull the skin a little tighter? You know, when I pull a little tighter, you can actually see how swollen it got because it goes down under my jaw. Which she also said, you are going to be thankful you've got that gargle. I said, oh, really? She goes, yeah, because when that infection releases, it's going to release up through that tooth or teeth into your mouth. I was like, oh, wonderful. She goes, yeah, you're going to want to run, spit, gargle, spit, gargle, spit, gargle. And she said when it releases, just give it a gentle, a gentle push. Very gentle. So she said push from here very gently up. And she said kind of suck on it. And it'll pull it up. And the more you can get out, the faster you're going to have relief. Oh, yeah, Kathy, believe me, I've had, well, I do something stupid once a year, and I think this is like the fifth time, although I've never had, a bubble like this, so I can imagine when that releases, ugh, it's going to taste like a raccoon shit in my mouth. Yeah, my two prescriptions were $18. So I didn't complain. If they'd have been $80, I wouldn't have complained. I want to be out of this goddamn misery. Yeah, as soon as it was like around 5:15, Boots come bounding into the bed. And I went to say something, and I was like, holy yucca I can't move my mouth. So I put a hot compress, and it loosened up a bit, although the nurse told me, no, don't do that. Let the antibiotics do it. Don't force it. Okay. Although the hot coffee did loosen it up enough where I could talk, because this morning I sounded like a goddamn drunk. Yeah, that's what she said. She goes, nope, 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 nope. She said, how long did you have the compress on? I said, oh, just a couple of minutes. She goes, no more. No more. Don't do that. So how much is your annual deductible, Ron? If I remember when I was with the clinic, ours was $250. When you hit the $250 mark, then you were good to go. Although it didn't take me long to hit the 250 because at that time my patches and my other medications were like $110. So it didn't take long to hit the 250. Ooh, $1,000. Holy shit. Well, sign of the times. You know, back in 1980, that would have been $100. My my prescriptions go on what they call a sliding scale with my income, which I'll end up paying more because of that big whopping cost of living increase we got. Well, that's not too bad, Ron. I mean, fentanyl patches ain't cheap. After I got my drug delivery, I had to run up to Mark's. There were a couple of things I needed to pick up because they're closed tomorrow. And I no sooner parked the car and I got out, and there was this guy blowing his horn, flashing his lights, waving at me. I'm like, I don't know anybody in a Kia, big Kia. Well, it was my buddy's son. He just picked up his 2026 Kia Carnival, which is their largest SUV. Holy shit. The back seat has got two strato loungers. Heat, cool, massage, 30-way adjustable, push a button, the footrest comes out. You can lay back, take a nap. And leather seats that are softer than a baby's ear. I was like, holy shit. Now, this Kia puts my buddy's Lincoln Aviator to shame. And he's got every option on the book. I thought he had nice seats. I open that back door and he goes, hop in. I get in. He goes, all right, push the buttons. Pushing the footrest. Push the massage. And it's like 10 different massage settings. I was amazed at that car. Now he drives for both Uber and Lyft. I says to him, with this car, if you don't get constant repeat customers, they got a problem. Because I'll tell you what, if I needed an Uber, I would call him just to ride in that car. Unbelievable. I mean, the back seating area was laid out like a Rolls Royce back there. Absolute, and the fit and finish, oh, you know, I remember the first Kias that were imported in the United States. The quality control and the fit and finish where those cars were so bad, they fell apart before your eyes. I forgot to ask him what he paid for it. It only had 13 miles on it. Absolutely gorgeous. It's in that, it's like a smoky powder blue. It's something like, what the hell did Volkswagen call it? Vapor. Back in the day, you could order a Bug with their new paint, Vapor. And the interior, oh my God. It was a light brown and tan leather that, like I say, was soft as a baby's ear. But I couldn't figure out who the hell was blowing a horn, flashing like. Then finally he got out. But he had to go because he had a customer to pick up. I told him, I said, when you got some time, I want to drive it. And then I want you to drive me while I'm reclining in the back seat. Yeah, Merry Christmas to you, Kathy. And Merry Christmas to you, Link Spur. Hopefully, the antibiotics will start working because I really don't want to cancel tomorrow. I got nothing to do. Eventually, I will sing. I would be between the goddamn sore throat and then this. Thank God the end of the year is close. I can't take any more shit this year. Although I got to get my ass moving here, I got to bring the TV in. Hey, Kelly, Merry Christmas to you. Welcome to Grumpy with a Sore Jaw. I sound like I'm intoxicated. I woke up this morning, I couldn't open my mouth. Boy, taking my morning pills, oh. I had to do them one at a time. One pill, sip of coffee. One pill, sip of coffee. One pill, sip of coffee. Hey, Kathy, did you mention the pot holder to your granddaughter? And as soon as you mentioned it, did she say, I'm giving up crocheting? I ain't crocheting a pot holder for that asshole. I would just like to see the look on her face. You could tell her, you know that idiot that I watch at night? She, yeah. He wants a pot holder. I'll get the one middle finger salute. Not for him. Although she did tell me to lay off of these. I said, that's harder than anything else on earth. I said, I've been smoking since I was 14. And the amazing thing is, my chest x ray in May, my doctor said, boy, it's amazing. All those years smoking, he said, you got excellent lungs. I said, well, maybe you ought to suggest more of your patients smoke. He didn't think that was funny. You're supposed to be quitting. I said, I didn't sign no form. I didn't agree to that. Although February, when I see my oncologist, I know the greeting I'll get. He'll whip the door open and go, you're still smoking. How's your day, Doc? Thanks for the greeting. Tell him, hey, shorty, I'll pick you up and put you in my coat pocket. Because he barely makes 5 foot. Barely. Yeah, it was funny. My buddy started, his son started blowing the horn, flashing the lights. Everybody in the parking lot's like, what the hell's the matter with him? And thank God he got out. Because with him just waving, I had. So finally he stepped out, and I was like, oh, it's you. He says, come over and see my new car. I just left, where'd he buy it? North Olmsted Kia. And then you talk about ripoff. The salesman said, would you like floor mats? Now you're buying a car that's probably $60,000-$70,000. It don't come with floor mats unless you order them. He said, how much? $395. I said, what? He says, I can go to AutoZone for $25 and get floor mats. Matter of fact, he said after he dropped the guy at the airport, he was going to go to AutoZone and get floor mats. But I told him, I said, after their first ride, if you don't get repeat calls, there's something wrong with people. Now, I've been in a couple of lifts. One was a year-old Toyota Camry. It was nice. And then another one was a year-old Chrysler minivan. It was nice. Like I say, this thing's like a Rolls Royce. Although, like he said, working for both companies, he's going to crank the miles on this thing. Christ, he had a, what the hell was that? He had a 2023 Nissan Pathfinder. When he traded it in for this Carnival, it had 322,000 miles on it. And he said he really considered another Pathfinder because he rarely had a problem with that thing. Although he's a fanatic about his maintenance. But he said, no matter what tire you buy, you go through tires like crazy. He said, I don't buy Michelins anymore. I blow through tires too fast. And he said basically he had been at Nissan and he told the salesman, I'm going to think about it. I'll call you this afternoon. And on his way home is Helene Kia. Yeah, it's not North Olmsted, it's Helene Kia in North Olmsted. And he said right in the front of the lot was this beautiful powder blue and he said it really caught my eye. So he wheeled in and he said, I didn't even get out of the car and the salesman come barreling out the door. Can I help you? He said, yeah, I want to look at this Carnival. So he ran back in, got the key, hit the door lock button. My buddy's son said, I opened the back door. I looked in at them seats and went, let's go in and talk. And he said, I couldn't believe the frickin' money they gave me for that worn out Pathfinder. And hour and a half, 45 minutes later, he's driving home. But he's, how old is he? 28, 29, maybe 30. Has a little efficiency apartment. And he loves driving. He's been driving a couple of years for both companies. So I wish him good luck. Man, it's a beautiful vehicle. Oh my God, is it gorgeous. I was rubbing my cheek on the seat. I was like, oh my God, is this soft? But when the seats are up, looks like a large seat. Until you get in and start pushing the buttons, it was like a lazy boy. You almost go flat. And the power footrest, and then it's got speakers in the headrest. Although, like he said, I don't play the radio, no music, because it irritates people. Beautiful car. Oh my God. Better than some people's houses. I could see somebody go, I don't mind being homeless. Look what I got. Next time I see him, I'm going to ask him what he paid for it. I'm nosy like that. How much was that thing? But it had all the toys. I remember before it was Kia, it was Daewoo. Because I remember when Helene started to carry them, and everybody like, what the hell is a Daewoo? And boy, no quality control, no fit and finish. Even their, what they called their elegant top end, boy, they've come along. They actually kick ass over American manufacturers. They really do. Which is sad. But you know, the Japanese and the Koreans, they have a completely different work ethic. They preach pride in workmanship. And you can see it. I was looking for defects. I couldn't find anything that was misaligned or loose or beautiful vehicle. Oh my God. I can't wait to ride in it. I I was planning on making an Italian hoagie for dinner. No. I'm going to do gourmet hot dogs. They're easier to chew. Not to mention, I don't have to open my mouth so large. And I'll tell you what, Kathy, they, oh, they're brutal on education. They are brutal on their kids when it comes to education. None of this B plus or A minus. But I'll tell you what, Ford, GM, and Chrysler better start paying attention because like when Toyota took off, Toyota was outselling Ford and GM combined. And I've seen some new, Explorers and Expeditions, and this Carnival puts them to shame. So the American manufacturers better open their eyes because the Koreans they're out to kick ass. I don't know if Hyundai has a comparable vehicle. They're the same corporation. It's just two separate manufacturing plants. The orders come down from one head to two companies. But I remember them goddamn Daewoo's. Oh my God. And then it was about 2 years later, they changed the name from Daewoo to Kia. Although they did up the quality. Kathy, did I send you that video on white motors? I watched a YouTube documentary on when white motors basically they went from making sewing machines to steam cars. And that's basically how the white motor truck division came about. Being someone that worked there, and especially being a third generation, I found it quite interesting. And also, I learned a lot what caused the downfall. They put their foot in their mouth. But it was a real interesting documentary. The guy that made it did a hell of a job. Because he even had pictures of the headquarters at 79th and St. Clair. Which one of these days I got to take a ride down there and see if it still says white on the front of the building. Because they tore the factory down. It's a big bus parking lot now for school buses. All right, I'll I'll have to try to find it again, and I'll send it to you. You would get it because you were living here when White Motors was still manufacturing trucks. At one time, they were the largest employer in Cleveland. And the interesting thing was, they did a little side note, and they mentioned the Winton Automobile Company. Well, the Winton was manufactured in Cleveland, and the plant was at 117th and Franklin. Actually, the main entrance was 117th and Madison, and people don't realize what that building was. Every now and then, I'll ride past and I'll stop, and it's a combination small manufacturing office building, and I'll wait till somebody comes out. Now, you know what this building was back in the 20s? No. Was the Winton Motor Car Company. And they give you a look like, what? I said, yeah, gargle it. This is a historic building. I don't think it is, but it is. Matter of fact, years ago, my buddy rented part of the building when he had a AAMCO transmission franchise. Beep beep, double AMCO, AAMCO. Matter of fact, he did a couple of transmissions for me. What the hell year was that Oldsmobile? 78? It was either a 78 or a 79. Olds 98. I bought it off a private owner, and about a week later, the transmission took a shit. I was like, hey, Ronnie, can I have my car towed to your shop? He said, yeah, bring it in. Then AAMCO bought back most of their franchises. Ronnie ended up where the hell did he after AAMCO bought the franchise back? Oh, he was the district manager for Sky Chefs out at the airport. That was a gravy job for him. Then one night he come home from work and had dinner, watched some TV, went to bed, and didn't wake up in the morning. God, Ronnie was only, Jesus Christ, Ronnie at the time was only 48, 49 years old. That was a shock when his wife called and said, Ronnie died. I said, what? She goes, yeah, went to bed and never woke up. This is the thing that really gets me. Before he was hired by Sky Chef, he had a complete physical, was required, mandatory. They gave him a clean bill of health. How can you do a complete physical and miss an enlarged heart? The coroner said his heart was 3 times the normal size of a heart. How can you have a complete physical and they miss that? At least he went peaceful. But way too goddamn young. Oh, man. And boy, he had some beautiful restored antique cars. He had a 29 Model A that took Best of Show in Hershey one year. He had a 31 Franklin and either a 56 or 57 Ford pink, flamingo pink and white Crown Victoria. That was a car. Oh, man. Although, I think everybody in the west side of Cleveland knew that Ronnie's 29 Model A took the Best of Show at Hershey. I'm surprised he didn't rent billboards. But that car, well, all of them. Ronnie was a real fanatic. Everything had to be what was on the car from the factory. Because I remember the longest restoration was the Franklin. Because that had an air-cooled engine and it burned a piston. And boy, did he have trouble finding an original piston for that car. The guy said, hey, we got aftermarket right here. Nope. He said, when I restore my cars, they're 100% original. Because I'll tell you, he told everybody the story. The judging between two 29 Model A sedans came down to the thread in the seat covers. They went under the seat and they took a little snippet and they tested both, and one was rayon, and Ronnie's was cotton, because they didn't have rayon in 29. That's how close the judging came on them two 29 Model A's. Ronnie was sweating it. Because they were neck and neck. And it got to be the point the judges took a break. They were like, we got to clear our head. We'll continue the judging after lunch. And they went around them cars and around them cars and around them and crawling in and out and underneath. And Ronnie said, well, who won? They said, well, as soon as we test this piece of thread, you'll know. And they took that little 1-inch snippet of thread and dropped it in some chemical. And it turned whatever color, and the judges went, that's rayon. And they looked at Ronnie's and went, that's cotton. And the guy lost 1 point. It was 99 to 100. The two cars. And the trophy, God, the trophy was like 4 foot tall. Best of show. His son's got all 3 cars now. He don't drive them too often. Every now and then he'll take the Crown Vic to a cruise in somewhere. The Flamingo pink and white. But Ronnie was he was a stickler for detail. Because when he died, he was working on a, what the hell was that car? A 20-something Maxwell. And he had it about 90%. I don't know if his son ever finished it or not. I actually got to drive both of them, the Franklin and the Model A. It's hard to believe back in 1929 that was top technology. No frickin' heaters. How did people drive them cars with no heat? Bundle up in blankets, I guess. Although, that's almost as bad as the open cars. You take a look at, the 1900s up until 1920s, a lot of cars were open. Can you imagine driving in a snowstorm? No side windows, no door. Did he really? Wow, I didn't know that. I bet as tight as Jack Benny was, I bet she drove it up until the day he died. I'll have to Google that. I never do that. Usually, well, Jack Benny was tight. Most of the stars back in the day drove, big Duesenbergs and Packards and the big buck cars that they had. They'd send them to a bodybuilder and have a custom body put on them. Back in the day where you basically bought an engine and a chassis. Then you send it to a bodybuilder. Oh, that hurts. Oh, don't move the lower lip. Oh my God. Yeah, when I woke up at 4 o'clock this morning, this thing was throbbing. I could feel my heartbeat in it. And the amazing thing is, when I took my blood pressure this morning, it wasn't elevated. I figured it would be. Usually, when you're in pain, it cranks your blood pressure. What the hell was it this morning? Let me look. Get the blood pressure page out here. I was 120/78. I did it twice. I didn't believe it. I was like, oh no, this can't be right. The way then I take my medication one pill at a time. A little sip of coffee. Finally, the hot coffee kind of limbered it up a little bit. And I did ask the nurse practitioner if I could drink coffee. She said, yeah, not too hot. I said, okay, I can do that. Because I can't be without my coffee. Ooh. That was one of the things I had to go up and get from Mark, some more pods. I got me some more Chuck Full of Nuts, dark roast, Upper West Side. Crazy name for dark roast, Upper West Side. Wonder what the Lower West Side is. Probably decaf. Decaf. Oh. I never forget when I went over my buddy's house. His wife, she poured us all coffee. I put a little sugar in, a little splash of cream. She said, what's wrong? I said, did you reuse them coffee grounds? She says, no, you saw me make a fresh pot. Why? I said, the shit tastes like piss water. Oh, it's decaf. Decaf? First thing in the morning? I used to get that, what the hell was that goddamn Rev? Double the caffeine. That was an eye-opener in the morning. So, Kathy, any festivities tonight, or is everything for tomorrow morning? No festivities going on here. Never heard of it, Ron. Jolt Cola? That's coffee? Or is that a bottled beverage? Everything in the morning, okay. All the grandkids going to show up, make grandma smile. Everybody ripping paper like crazy. Oh, it's soda. Yeah, with a name like cola. Never heard of this stuff. Fake snowballs. Oh man. Everybody sitting around in the living room unwrapping presents, and grandma gonna whip a snowball at them. I'd be like, whoa, hey, hey, hey. Oh, wait a minute, that ain't snow. Ow. Yeah, tomorrow, me and my buddy Bootsy, I went up and I got more cat treats. And I got my Dak canned ham and some crushed pineapple and brown sugar. And I'll make my own glaze for it. Then make some mashed potatoes and some sweet potatoes and seasoned lima beans. I looked for the Italian flat beans. They didn't have any. They don't carry them. They had every goddamn product except the Italian flat beans. So I got the Southern seasoned lima beans. Yeah, it's our favorite company. Southern seasoned lima beans. I can't wait to try them. I've never had them. I've always liked lima beans. I remember back on the farm, my Uncle would grow them. We'd sit there and shuck them. Yeah, the guy at Mark's told me, he said, either Gigantic Eaglet or Walmart. So next week I'll swing up to Gigantic Eaglet because I ain't going to Walmart. I've seen them. I can't remember. Maybe it was Gigantic Eaglet. I've seen them. I've never been a big fan of butter beans. Oh, oh, man, does that fucking thing hurt? Yeah, they had on the shelf above it regular lima beans, and then I looked down on the shelf below and it's Southern seasoned lima beans. I was like, oh, I'm going to try them. Because them field beans and green snaps, those were tasty. Well, they had them. Like I say, this company makes just about every goddamn bean on earth. They even had seasoned pinto beans. I kind of draw the line there. Although anything they make that says seasoned is always kick ass. Yeah, I never thought to look and see if Birdseye has the flat Italian green beans. I'm not too big on frozen though. I'll have to look. But I have to go up that way next week, so I'll swing into Gigantic Eaglet and see if they've got the Italian. Yeah, Mark said every goddamn, if it was a bean, they had it. And they had, like regular, and then underneath, the seasoned. I'm like, well, why should I get regular limas when I can get the fancy seasoned ones? Although it's amazing how many Puerto Rican bean products you find today. Matter of fact, I got to get me some ground beef. It's about time for a good old pot of homemade chili. I haven't had homemade chili since this time last year. Do it in the crock pot. Although maybe I'll make a bigger batch. I'll use my Martha Stewart soup pot. Make me a bigger batch of chili. Although that's kind of got to wait because I love a shitload of oyster crackers in my chili. I can't be eating anything crunchy. Yet when I make mine, Kathy, I use a can of the dark and a can of the light. Or instead of the light, I'll get the seasoned kidney beans for chili. But if they don't have the seasoned, then I get a can of each. Not that I notice much difference in the taste. It's scary to see the price of canned goods, though. Jesus. I look at some of the canned good prices, I'm thinking, man, back in 1970, I could buy a case for that. And I don't buy generic. Generic is just basically a watered down and like I got green beans from Walmart, their brand, and the can was like 1/3 water. I poured the beans out, and the goddamn there were stems, and I was like, "What the hell is this shit?" I have to pick through the goddamn green beans to get the stems out. Well, just think, Ron. Time will pass quickly. You won't have to put up with that shit. Matter of fact, what I would do my last night there, I would beat on the ceiling with a broom. Take a broomstick. Whack, 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 whack. What are they going to do? Report you to management? You're leaving the next day. Yeah, what is Walmart's generic food brand? Great value? Yeah, great ripoff. I couldn't believe when I poured that can out in a bowl. I was all set to microwave them. I was like, what is this shit? Ends and stems and I was like, it's the last time I'm getting them. That'll teach me a lesson. I was too cheap to buy, what was it, Del Monte? Yeah, the Walmart brand was like half the price. Green beans. Poured them out in a strainer. I looked and I was like, where's all the beans? And then ends, stem, stem. I was like, never again. Never again. I don't care. Great value is not a great value unless you're homeless. And even then, it ain't a great value. Oh, I haven't bought Stokely's in eons. God, I can't tell you the last time I bought anything Stokely. I'm glad to hear I won't be buying them. Well, that's why they call me an asshole. Because I would. 2 in the morning, I'd be beating on the ceiling. They come down and say, hey, we're trying to sleep up here. Well, it's just payback for being fucking elephants upstairs while I live downstairs. I'm leaving in the morning. Good riddance. Hey, TV2. Merry Christmas, buddy. Thanks for popping in. I'm having a little speech problem. I have a frickin' tooth infection and my goddamn lower jaw's swelled up like a chipmunk. And it hurts. Right here on the bottom. God damn, the bottom of it is so tender. Jesus. Can't wait for those antibiotics to kick in. Well, she told me she said I get the strongest I could give you. 2-powered hitter. I'll have to, the goddamn bottle's on the nightstand. Because it's amoxicillin and something else combined. Because she came back on and when she put me on hold, she said, I checked with the doctor and this is the strongest one I can give you. I said, thank you very much. With expedited delivery. That was the best part. No, they don't bother me. No matter what kind I've ever taken, I've never had a reaction to them. Watch, these'll screw me over. I'll be in the goddamn bathroom like I was getting ready for a colonoscopy. The only oh, I can't think of the goddamn drug. Oh shit, I can't think of the. They gave it to me to try to get me to quit smoking. I can't think of the name of it. I'm drawing a blank. I want to think they use it mainly for anxiety, but they also prescribe it for helping you quit smoking. That's it. Well, yeah. Oh, I had some nasty side effects from that shit. Holy Christ. I told the doctor I am never taking that again. I actually had fucking suicidal thoughts from that Wellbutrin. That was scary. And weird dreams. Holy shit. Some of that, oh, I thought I was on some psychedelic drug. Man, some of the, oh. I remember one, matter of fact, it happened several nights in a row. I dreamt I fell off a cliff. And I'm falling and falling and falling and falling and falling. And I'm like, oh. Then I woke up. I stopped in midair. Oh, that was scary. Laying in bed and you're falling and there's no bottom in sight. I was walking around talking to little animals with that shit. I couldn't wait to flush them. I was, oh. Nasty stuff. I cannot see how they would prescribe that for anxiety. It gave me anxiety. Like you say, I called the doctor. I said, I'm having suicidal thoughts with this shit. He said, stop taking them immediately. No problem. What a goddamn dream to have that you're falling and picking up speed and no parachute. You're just like thrashing in bed. And then I fucking woke up. Goddamn blankets soaking wet, bed sheets soaking wet, sweating like a fucking whore in church. Well, I'll tell you what. I have never in my life had side effects like that. See, I'd be laying there sound asleep, and you're on your back, thrashing, falling. Like, holy shit, I'm gonna die. Then I kind of found myself staring at my 9mm for a while, like, That's when I called the doctor and I said, this is some nasty shit. Well, tell me. I said, well, I'm dreaming I'm falling and picking up speed, and I'm staring at my Taurus G2C. He said, what's that? It's a 9mm. Stop taking them. Lock it up. I said, well, it's locked up. I'm just staring at it. I don't understand how they can prescribe that shit. I have read more horror stories about that goddamn drug. People that have actually deleted themselves, too. And they're still prescribing it to this day. Because when he told me, he said, well, it's mainly for people with anxiety. I said, yeah, it makes it worse. Oh, you're having some bad side effects. Oh, no shit, Sherlock. You want to hear the flush as I pour them in the toilet and then fuck up the drinking water for the city? Yeah, they tell you don't flush them anymore. Don't flush drugs. So now I crush any that I have to dispose of and put them in the garbage. Oh, no shit. I mean, I had to pay full price because it didn't fall under my gradated discount plan. And then to pour half of them out. And like I tell all my doctors, that is the only drug I've ever taken that I've had really weird side effects from. You know, that is scary to be falling through space, thrashing around, no bottom in sight. You're just falling and falling and falling and falling, and then you wake up. Okay, there's the ceiling. I'm laying in bed. So I'm safe. I had been on that stuff about 3 weeks. And the first 2 weeks, it was a little goofy going on, and boy, that third week, holy shit. I called my doctor. I said, I don't know what's in these things, but I ain't taking them. Well, I don't do injections. As we all know, I have trypanophobia. Come at me with a needle, I would rather jump in a tank of hungry great white sharks and take my chances. Because they always have a needle about that long, Goes in one arm, squirts out the other. Oops, sorry. And like my pain management doctor, he was down for 2 weeks with the nastiest flu he's ever had. And he got it from a fucking flu shot. I don't do them either. Although I think I'm due for my fucking shingles vaccine. Better be a little needle. Yeah, I think I read on my chart March 2026 shingles vaccine. I didn't think that shit was still going around. I've never known anybody to get shingles. Well, except Marianne when she had her roof done. Yeah, I tell any doctor or nurse, if you can't give me injection using a diabetic needle, I ain't taking one. Period. Because them diabetic needles are little itty bitty. As a matter of fact, I think they did my last shingles injection with that little itty bitty. Yeah, when I was at CVS the other day, I was watching the pharmacist give a flu shot. Fucking needle looked like it was 3 inches long. I was like, you want to sign up for one? They're free. And I said, give it to the woman behind me. No, thank you. I don't do them. There was some other. I'll have to look at my chart again. There was something else besides the shingles. There were two. I didn't pay attention to the second one. As soon as I saw the first one, I like. Brr. Yeah, I'll have to look. I'm due for two. I'll have to see what the second one is. Somebody just shot off some fireworks. Since when do we do fireworks on Christmas Eve? Ron, you're the only person I ever knew that had shingles. I've never met anybody that had them. Yeah, Kat, that might be it. Yeah, shingles and pneumonia. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think that's the other one. Now I know the pneumonia they can give me with a little itty bitty. What are you, baby? Yes. Yes. I am. Tell her, you come at me with that needle, you're going to find it stuck in your ass. Oh, ow, ow, ow. There's another one. What's with the fireworks? Since when do we shoot fireworks on Christmas Eve? Must be the leftovers from 4th of July. Oh, I can't wait to take my next antibiotic. Oh, I learned a lesson. I learned a lesson. Matter of fact, the nurse said the same thing. She goes, yeah, those are pretty crunchy chips. I said, yeah, especially when you eat them with no teeth. Sat there and laughed at me. She was very pleasant. Had a very nice personality. As I told her, I said, you got time for a story? She says, yeah. I told her the story. Because I never had kettle chips. And I should have stopped at the first one. But I said they were Lay's. And you know what they say about Lay's, you can't eat just one. But after the 25th one, my mouth was so sore I couldn't do number 26. There goes another one. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, that hurts. Going to be interesting sleeping tonight, I'll tell you that. I caused my own problem. I got nobody to blame but me. Somebody keeps shooting them off. Well, people, thanks for being here on Christmas Eve. I hope everybody's Christmas morning is wonderful. And hopefully, I'll get a little bit of relief from the antibiotics, so it isn't so goddamn hard to talk tomorrow. And with that, everybody, take care. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. And Merry Christmas to all, and all a good night. See ya. Take two. See ya.